Yes, Slovakia, Matej, Pete from Milan. We got Andreasen from Berlin, Munich, Switzerland, Poland, Helsinki, Turkey, Pacific Northwest, Moldova, Paris. That's amazing. Tokyo, yes, staying up late. Appreciate it. CK Yuki. Bangalore.
Nice.
Isfahan, is that Austria?
Yeah, Austria.
I'm gonna embarrass myself. Okay. Almost exposed myself there. Rohan from Bangalore. Hey. Krakow. Jason's in Alabama. Nice. Frankfurt, Nigeria, Ukraine. Wow, we've got a full global representation here. This is amazing. Brussels in the UK. Very nice. Let's maybe play another game while we're just waiting. We're going to get started in like 2 or 3 minutes. Let's see where it's the hottest and where it's the coldest. So put your like current temperature outside, Celsius or Fahrenheit. We can do the math in the chat and we'll see who gets the prize for the hottest temperature and the coldest temperature. And I'm craving some heat at the moment, which is probably why. Okay. Ooh, we've already got 21 degrees. Okay, we got 24. Oh, yeah, there we go. Ooh, -12. Where's is that Patrick? Where's the -12? That may be the cold winter. I think 24 has been 24 Celsius has been the hottest I've seen. Helsinki. That would make sense. Okay, 27, Gonzalo. Where's the 27? We're all coming there. Nice. Okay, Argentina, summertime. Very nice. 29, okay, Lagos. 32. Is that also Nigeria? 30. Oh my goodness. There is a limit. 35 is getting up there. That might be, not sure my skin can handle that. Nice. Cool. I'm in Lisbon at the moment, and I think it's around 10-ish Celsius. Yes, 21 in Mexico City. Delicious. That is the right word. That is the right way. Ooh, -24 in Calgary. There we go. No thanks. No offense. Okay. We got the energy going. I think we're all here. I'm going to go ahead and get us started. Let me just share my screen and I will kick us off here. Okay. Okay, thumbs up if you can see. Nice. Okay, cool. I've temporarily lost the chat, so if there's any good... Oh, I got it back. Okay, we're live. Okay, cool. So thanks everybody for taking the time to join again. We're 5 minutes in. I'm going to get started. My name is Will. If you didn't see last week, some of this information might be a little bit in the weeds. So if this is the first time joining the ZK Ignite gatherings, I'd recommend also after this to go back and kind of get familiar with what happened last week. This is week 2 out of 12, and we're really excited to kind of start the meat of ZK Ignite, which is the proposal section. And I think last week there was a lot of info to cover, so some of this will be a little bit repetitive, but we're going to move a little bit faster. And also because lots of you have made accounts on the ZK Ignite platform, and you're also quite active on Discord, which is amazing. There's a chance that we'll probably skip over some stuff, which we'll just come back to in Discord afterwards. But I just again want to say welcome to everybody. Thank you for taking the time. I'm looking at Chiro on the chat right now. It says it's 1 a.m. here. LOL. Sorry about that, but thank you so much for joining. And we're excited to get going. Cool. So, what is the goal of ZK Ignite? Again, we're going to show this slide probably every week, just because it's energetic and fun and weird. But again, we're trying to create a Cambrian explosion of ZK acts across the Mina ecosystem. And the metaphor here, again, is that Cambrian explosion was at the beginning of time when all of these organisms kind of were bouncing off of each other and created, went from nothing, from being rocks into like life or organisms recorded for the first time in history. And we're kind of at that stage now where there's a lot of really smart people and ideas and energy, and there's a beautiful core protocol with ZK, native ZK tech at its core architecture. But in order to kind of progress onto the next phase of the ecosystem's life, and which is, applications that are touching real human beings and have real users, it's time for that spark. And so ZK Ignite as a program is intended to create an idea, an area for experimentation, an area for collaboration, an area for the community to kind of come together in a lot of different ways, no matter what your skill set is. And to really, at the end of this, create a whole ecosystem of ZK apps, not by any one path, not by any one direction, but from this kind of mixing and matching and growth all together. I want to first shout out everybody who's been active coming off of last week and participating and collaborating. Again, like in order to make that kind of Cambrian explosion happen, it really just takes everybody coming together and not working in silos, but working together. And so we've already seen a little bit of that. Last week was just insight sharing, just reacting to the different challenges that we had, the ZK app challenge or ZK app track and the dev for dev track. And already you can see on the platform, there's been 85 unique insights on the ZK app side, 23 unique insights on the dev for dev side, 126 comments. And I think over 300 or over 400 people joined the platform and have been already participating in ZK Ignite. So as this is the first time we're ever doing it, I'm super pleased with just the amount of effort and energy that people have already poured in. And I'm really excited to see where this goes. So first of all, just shout out to everybody who's there. Here's just a quick word salad of what has some of the ideas that have already been shared. We have biosciences and bioauthentication. We have database and storage solutions. We have libraries and other dev tooling, popular, for example, something like Open Zeppelin for Mina. We have ideas around job boards. We have, I think on the bottom right, we see like a ZK rollup. So nice, they named it twice. We have ideas for dashboards, AI and machine learning solutions. And then there are also just like insights and discussion points, not related to any ideas, but instead thoughtful discussions from people within the community who have a vested interest in the outcome of how ZK Ignite works. And that's again where we want to take this. It's not just a grantee or a grant proposer relationship. It's people who are giving feedback, people who have a vested interest in the overall outcome and what happens to the Mina ecosystem. And so it's not just submitting a proposal, it's ideating, it's asking questions, it's matching up, it's understanding kind of like where blind spots might be. We're creating kind of the foundation for the ZK app ecosystem together. So it's quite interdependent at the moment. So just want to kind of I could have made 3 or 4 slides all with just new information like this, but the point of this is just to say it's quite exciting to see the breadth of what people are thinking about. Cool. I also want to just shout out a couple legends from the first week. We wanted to just call out the people who are top on the comments and insights. This is just from people who are contributing, just contributing the most comments to start. So Flush the Fashion, The Dude, Robbie, Mario Zito, ID 3179, Joangle, Hip, Harvey Liak, another ID 317. Oh, that's a duplicate. Zen 0312 and Adonamics. Sorry that I mispronounced some of yours, but I just want to give a shout out again to, there's many more names that could be on this list, but we just want to kind of highlight top 10 or so people who are commenting and giving their time and giving their feedback. We only hope as we move into the proposal phase that this increases and that this becomes more we have 100 names to share. Also, just want to say, like, thanks for the feedback on the platform so far. There will continue to be bugs. This is the first time that, like, we're all using it together, and so an example was we didn't have the profile names tied to the insights at the beginning. Now that's fixed, but there's plenty more things as we move into the proposal phase that we will uncover. So I just want to set that expectation and also say thanks for keeping that flow coming. On Discord is the best place to Discord on the ZK Ignite cohort 1 channel is the best place to pass that along. And we're going to continue to kind of like work on that. We already have a list of things that ourselves and our partner Greg, who's managing the platform, is working on. Cool. Okay, so now we've had 1 week of insights and kind of ideation, and now we're going to be moving on to the proposal stage. So if you remember, like, the first 4 or 5 weeks of ZK Ignite is all about creating proposals and giving feedback on those proposals. And so we're excited to kind of, I'm not actually sure what the concept of this meme is, but I thought it would be nice, and I like Kermit the Frog, so here we are. If you like Kermit the Frog as well, feel free to put it in the chat. Or if you have meme suggestions, you can hit me up afterwards. Okay, this is again where we are in the 12 weeks. So I just want to call out two kind of important dates on here. Each week we're going to be kind of tackling a different theme. This is like building the proposal. Next week we'll be focused on finding teammates and building the team, as well as we'll hear from Room 40 Ventures around what makes a project investable. March 5th is the proposal submission deadline. And then March 21st is the proposal revision deadline. And what that means is all proposals must be uploaded by March 5th, but then they can be edited and revised based on feedback up until the 21st. And beyond the 21st, that's when voting starts. So we have about 2 weeks to kind of create your draft proposal and submit it. No new proposals can be submitted after March 5th. So it's really important to get that process started and to get it in a place that's credible and ready for feedback. But then you are going to be able to edit it and continue to work on it and evolve it based on feedback up until the 21st. If anyone's curious to see this doc as well, you can go onto the knowledge base section of the platform, which is, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there's a section there that has ZK Ignite weekly schedule, and then you can go in and see here just the kind of breakdown. Again, this document will continue to evolve as we go through it. Okay, what to expect this week: proposal best practices, how to submit. We'll do a Q&A, and then we're going to head over to GatherTown afterwards for a meet and greet and just some a light kind of discussion around the insights that were posted and the concept of a problem statement. I'll tease right now that GatherTown, it's the first time that we're using it. We're super excited. I don't know if you've used it before. It's kind of like a little metaverse-y thing where you can go around, you have a character or an avatar, and you can meet other people. Really, this will be our meeting place for all weeks going forward when we're talking about the interactive portions. So we'll use Zoom for kind of these like more slides-based format, and then we'll switch over to GatherTown for the more interactive portion where you can take more control over your own character and move around and play games and that kind of stuff. When we were testing it out, there apparently is one go-kart hidden somewhere that one person can find and drive around the little space, but we'll get to that when the time comes. Okay, I'm just going to take a sip of water. 1 second. Thanks. Why is a good proposal important for this? If you were on last week, we talked about how electors are going to make decisions as part of ZK Ignite, and the idea that all proposals are like, or I guess ZK Ignite at its core is a community-owned and community-governed process around deciding like grant allocation. And so it's a very new and decentralized way of managing the grants process. And it all comes down to making sure that electors who are making these decisions have the resources that they need to be able to fund the right projects. This is cohort 1, so not all proposals will get funded, but you can kind of think of the proposal as the most important thing as a builder, as someone who wants to kind of create a ZK app or a dev for dev tooling or service through ZK app. The proposal is your tool to tell your story and to make sure that the electors have all of the information that they need to fund your project. And so I think we can't overemphasize enough that electors have to make unbiased decisions based off of the proposals that they receive and the quality of information that is inside of those proposals. And so this phase is really important to just making sure that, you give yourself and your team the best shot possible by making sure that that the proposal has the right information to allow electors to make those decisions. As we talked about, there's kind of 2 tracks. There's the ZK app track and the dev for dev track. When you're deciding to choose your proposal, it comes down to kind of who you're building for, who your end user is. And in this case, if your end user is a developer and you're working to improve the developer experience within the ZK app ecosystem, you're going to choose the dev for dev track. And if your audience or your end user is not primarily a developer, if it's a business or an individual or an institution, then you'll be up most likely on the ZK app track. And so the evaluation criteria, we covered it last week. I'm going to run through it really quickly. It's impact, business potential, feasibility, and clarity. Impact: does the ZK app have the potential to benefit everyday users? Business potential means does it have the potential to grow and become a successful business building on top of Mina? Feasibility: are the proposed milestones feasible to achieve within current Snarky.js functionality? And then clarity: is the proposal written so that the milestones are clear and can be easily assessed by electors? And dev for dev is very similar, but it's again focused on the developer as the end user. How does the proposal improve the overall experience for developers building ZK apps in the Mina ecosystem? Does the proposal provide new solutions? If there's existing solutions, how does it improve upon those? Scalability: does the solution have the potential to scale and accommodate all the developers that are going to enter the ZK app ecosystem in the future? And then feasibility, again, are the proposed milestones feasible given current functionality? And so when you're considering the proposal, this is what's going to be on the scorecard that electors are looking at. We don't have specific each of these categories aren't called out in each proposal in the proposal form, but it's important to kind of think about in each of these categories, are you hitting these buckets? Okay, cool. So that was the information that we covered last week. The information that we're covering this week is breaking down actually how is the proposal structured on the platform? What are the kind of best practices around making sure that you are filling it out adequately? And so we have it broken out into 5 kind of groups: problem and proposed solution, architecture, budget and milestones, addressing risks, and team credentials. Okay, so we're starting with the problem statement kind of as the crux of the proposal. And the reason is to avoid kind of the age-old or startup age-old problem of building something that nobody actually wants. And we've kind of pulled a quote from Paul Graham, who's the founder of Y Combinator, from one of his more famous essays that was written about 10 years ago on startup ideas, and I'll just read it here. Why do so many founders build things that no one wants? Because they begin by trying to think of startup ideas. That MO is doubly dangerous. It doesn't merely yield a few good ideas, it yields bad ideas that sound plausible enough to fool you into working on them. It's a bit of an aggressive statement, but we wanted to start by that because, we are in this program of ideation, and we moved on from this past week of insight sharing. And there is a lot of experimentation that's going on, and that is part of the beauty of ZK Ignite. But on the other hand, when we're thinking about translating that into proposals, it's really important to kind of think about the actual problem that is being solved with your app idea or your tooling idea, and vetting that to make sure that, there is a real, to the best of your knowledge and hopefully data source, there is a real problem there that you're solving. I think in any kind of experimental program like this, we do run that risk of, balancing between ideation and real problems, especially when the tech is so novel and zero knowledge proofs themselves are coming into the mainstream for the first time. But everything, our direction to the electors who are making these decisions everything has to do with, the end user in mind and vetting to the best of our ability with a real problem statement. Okay, so in terms of like, what does this mean? I think it can be broken down into what problem are you solving, who are you solving it for, and how are you addressing their needs. This is going to be different for every proposal, and so it's not a perfect standard. But again, it's in this front section, every elector should be able to look at your proposal and answer these 3 questions very easily. If they aren't, then I would say it's less likely for your proposal to get funded, or maybe it just needs more ideation, needs more thought in terms of testing, or ideation probably isn't the right word. It needs more testing or validation out in the community or in the potential market in order to kind of provide this, validate this problem statement. Again, if we're going back to that criteria, like I said, there's not a direct translation of impact, business potential, scalability, feasibility to each of these categories. But if you're putting yourself in the position of an elector who is looking at, scoring impact and scoring business potential, that should come out through the way that you are talking about your problem statement. If it's not, if it's, I would say it's also important to explain if it's a problem that you have personally, explain what that problem means to you. And if it's not a problem that is yours as an everyday user, then make sure to point out the data points that you have that other people have this problem and that there is a market for it. Yes. If there's other, I guess the other point, the other thing to think about is when we're talking about the problem statement itself and your proposed solution that goes along with it. If there are current solutions out there, it's really important to call out how your proposal is suggesting to solve these problems in a different way, in a new way, in an innovative way, but ultimately in a way that end users will use your product instead. So how, again, how putting yourself into the shoes of the person who's going to be using that ZK app or using that developer tool, how will they be doing so? And yeah, again, this is an elector governed process. And so every elector will have a different take on what this problem means to them, but the more information and the more clarity that you can provide upfront to validate this, the better. Okay. I also wanted to just call out, and I'll keep us moving here. There was this comment by GG Space, is the Discord ID, on the insights, and I thought it was really interesting. People don't always care about privacy as much as you think. I'll just jump down to the bottom that says, before putting a lot of effort into any ZK app, it's important to understand the use case scenario and connect the ideas to real research data in order to lower our failure rate. Let's build use cases and ideas based on real needs rather than our own assumptions. This was one of the most discussed insights last week. I think it was just posted in the last couple of days, but I think it's I think it's a really valid point, and especially as the ZK application space is so new, this is a discussion that we need to continue to be having as a shared community around which problems are real or which problems are perceived. And because all proposals that are uploaded onto the platform, anyone can comment on them, this is the place to kind of add that shared perspective if this is the problem that you have, or even if you think that maybe the proposer hasn't thought about it and you want to suggest some constructive ways for them to reframe their proposal. So I'd like to see just like a lot more of this in a very constructive and forward way. And I think, again, when it comes down to like validating the problem statement, this is like 80% of the work up front when it comes to the proposal stage and making sure that that these problems are out there. Cool. I'm going to keep running just because I want to get us into Gather Town as soon as we can, but I will have some sections for Q&A at the end. Okay, architecture. So the next section is where we ask you to sketch out your proposed architecture or your proposed design for the ZK app or dev tooling. We're going to do a separate workshop on March 8th with O1 Labs, the team that incubated Mina Protocol and is currently building out Snarky.js. So we'll have actually like an in-depth architecture section and Q&A on March 8th. That is after the initial proposal deadline, but we'll give you a chance to revise based off of that workshop. But the key points here on architecture is to show that you've done your research on Snarky.js and Mina and actually have a technical plan on how you want to implement this. Again, in that impact, business potential, feasibility and clarity, feasibility and scalability, they're slightly different depending on the track, but this is now on the bottom half of those two, where it comes to, can you deliver based off of what your idea is? And do you kind of have the technical chops to be able to make that happen? Or does someone on your team have the technical chops to be able to make that happen? At this stage, especially for the first draft deadline, the architecture doesn't need to be final. And in fact, as you are learning and building and getting more familiar with Snarky.js, we expect this to change. But in the initial wave, they're like, again, these are tools for the elector to be able to make educated decisions and for you to be able to demonstrate to the elector that you're very familiar with how you're going to build your idea and you're confident that you can make it happen. Right after this meeting, we're also going to share an example proposal that Angus and Caleb have drafted up on the team. And it will be very kind of like very example level because we're just doing it as an exercise in how you should be thinking about filling this out. And it won't be like, you don't have to pick through it with a tooth and comb because there are like, it's intended to be high level. But if I go here, this is an example which will be included of what a potential architecture could look like and what electors can expect to see on the proposal. So there's potential to have a diagram of client side and server side. On the right side, you can see like they've actually listed out a user flow of how this would work. And again, we'll expect this to change, but think about this as a tool for the elector to be able to make the right decisions and funding the proposals with the highest likelihood of delivering those milestones. Okay, onto the budget phase. So when you click into the proposal, you'll see that there's actually two line items for budget and milestones. There's a base tier and then there's an optional tier called advanced. And so our intention with this is that you can have a little bit of optionality when you are proposing the size of your project. And because you don't know how the elector potentially, the elector group will respond or like your idea, there could be a couple of electors who love your idea and feel that that is the biggest thing that the ZK app ecosystem needs, and they want to fund you at a higher scale. And so the base tier is basically saying this is the minimum that I would need to be able to deliver on these milestones. And then you could say, if I were to get an extra X amount in funding, I would be able to deliver Y in terms of milestones. And so it's a little bit similar to the Kickstarter model, if anyone's used Kickstarter, in that if you unexpectedly or expectedly get more funding than your kind of like minimum tier, then there's an option to kind of scale up the amount of work you plan to deliver based off of the elector voting. We strongly only recommend that you will put down an advanced tier if you're comfortable delivering on those milestones. And again, there will be like, we're going to ask you a set of milestones for the base tier and then a set of milestones for the advanced tier. And I think the risk associated with the advanced tier, which is just important to call out, is, we are going to do many cohorts. The results of people delivering on their milestones will be recorded and probably used as an ongoing reputation-based system for future cohorts if you want to participate in again and again. So the advanced tier isn't kind of like a hit, just like oh, this would be really great if I got an extra 10 or 15K and I could do that with, it shouldn't be an afterthought. It should really be like, if you're putting it there, that's what you're prepared to deliver on if you were to get funded to that amount. We'll talk more a little bit about this when it comes to voting and funding in a future week. But I think the only thing to call out in between is if there's funding in between your base tier and your advanced tier, then and you don't get funded all the way to the advanced tier, it will just revert to the lower tier of funding. Similarly, if you get funded over the advanced tier, it will revert to the advanced tier. So you can kind of just think about it as it'll always revert to the lower tier of funding if you do pass those thresholds. Okay, and again, the bad attempt at memes, but here we are anyways. Feasibility and clarity. Again, when we talked about like those are the bottom half of the criteria when an elector is going through their process and evaluating these proposals. There's the kind of like problem statement stuff, which is like forward looking. Is it solving a problem? Could it reach a lot of users? Could it become a business? And then there's the kind of reality check associated with a proposal. Feasibility. Is it clear? Is it possible based off of the architecture that you've proposed? Is it possible based off of where Mina Protocol is at? Is it parsable with current Snarky.js functionality? This is a really important one. And again, there should be moonshots in terms of ideas, but those moonshots should be applicable technically. And as a proposer, you are committing to milestones to deliver on within 3 months. Oh, I think I froze. Still with me? Okay. Where you're working towards those 3 month milestones, and so feasibility is a huge thing. Clarity. This one is like, are the milestones easy to understand? Is the proposal easy to assess? When you're writing this, put yourself into the position of someone who doesn't know you, who doesn't know your background necessarily, who is looking at a lot of proposals and is seeing this idea potentially for the first time. And so you want to draw them in, but you also want to make it really clear and easy to understand. And above all, not above all, but an important factor is you need to make it really clear for them as well to say, in 3 months' time, was this successful or was it not? That's not going to be necessarily possible like for everything, especially when we're building very forward-thinking and novel applications. But again, that is, if you're putting yourself in the shoes of an elector who is making these decisions, it's about giving them the most information possible to be able to say yes. Okay, sizing your project. This is one that we're also still experimenting with in terms of like, we've never done it before. This is cohort 1. We have an overall budget of 250K USDC for each track and 150K Mina for each track. We've already gotten some questions around how big should I choose for, how big of a proposal should I choose for this? And the answer is we're not 100% sure yet, because again, this is a community governed and elector governed process. We can give recommendations to the electors, which are here onto the screen. But ultimately, like, we're very serious about this being an elector driven process, and as the integrity of the program. And so I think there's a couple key points to call out. One, cohort 1 as a program is intended to kind of scatter the seeds in the garden of ZK apps. So it's not to fund 1 or 2 really, really, really big projects. Instead, it's to give a lot of different builders a chance when they're kind of trying out different ideas, targeting different problems. And we strongly think that like it's in the best interest of the ZK app ecosystem and the Mina ecosystem, and why everyone's on this call and in the long term is that we are trying out different areas and different things. So it's not about like funding a small handful of projects at higher amounts. It's more tailored to a wider kind of range of projects that are targeting different use cases and building different tools. And so instead of thinking about this as funding the entire project from start to finish. Again, this is like more aimed at funding the beginning and bootstrapping the beginning of a project that then could grow into something very, very big and be used over a long period of time. And so that scope should, the scope should be within delivering in those milestones within 3 months. It might take less than that. And that's, again, for you to consider as you're writing your proposal. But we're thinking about, like, our elector direction is to fund around 10 projects, at least 10 projects in each track, and see what comes from that. There will be a cohort 2, there will be a cohort 3, there will be a cohort 4. And so in the spirit of experimentation, it's about figuring out how to, like, continue to fund some of these projects if needed along the way as they grow and as some of these questions are validated. And then another part in the second half of ZK Ignite is around creating a network and building within a network of venture capitalists or venture capital, firms and investors within the Mina ecosystem. And so think of this funding phase as really like, what do you need to bootstrap that project? Again, it's not like an RFP thing where you're really getting contracted to build everything from start to finish. It's much more experimental than that, and getting things off the ground so that you can either, if you can build it within that time frame, great. But it's more to say, okay, get it to a point where there's validation from either the market or from the tech. There is an opportunity to potentially go out and pitch to other investors or participate in other programs or funds. Or participate in future cohorts. And so we don't have a perfect answer around, how much should I ask? I would say every project is different, every team is different, everyone's skills are different. So there's no perfect figure. But again, if you're thinking about the elector making these decisions, these are the recommendations that we'll be passing on to the electors. And so there's a bit of nuance to it. Okay, and finally, addressing risks is the last, or there's 2 more categories. Addressing risks, it's, there's a lot of things that are going to change. There are a lot of things that could change. And we just, at the end of the elector process, or at the end of the 3-month process, when you're presenting on those milestones, it's likely that many things will change, and you've still delivered really good work. And there's a good, even though you haven't hit your milestones, there's a case that you could present to say, like, I have delivered, just not exactly what I presented up front. And for these XYZ reasons, this is a tool for you to be able to call that out upfront in the proposal around, like, some of the dependencies and how you could potentially work around them if things don't plan out as you planned. Okay, again, key dates, we already covered that, but really, like, the next 2 weeks are all about drafting and giving feedback. And I'd love to see as many people as possible as well, just like give comments and help each other validate these problem statements. We have, again, the Discord channel here, which is ready for any questions. We have the ZK Apps channel, which is ready for technical support. We have technical office hours every Wednesday, which I believe were just right before this call as well, and that's held on Discord. And then we're going to be matching people with mentors as things get started. As a reminder, if you're interested in being a mentor as well, we can continue to you can sign up on the platform. There's a link there as soon as you sign in. Okay, Caleb and Angus, our go-to support. These are just reminder slides, and then we have some docs linked. Again, this will be linked afterwards. And then in terms of submitting your proposals, maybe I'll show you really quickly at the end how you can submit proposals. But I think now we can take about 5 to 10 minutes for Q&A before we hop into the gather space. So I'm sorry, I think I still took up a fair amount of time, but I hope that was really valuable. But let's see if there's maybe a couple group questions that would be beneficial for the whole group. Sorry, anybody?
Hey, Will, this is Venkat. We are working on a project that requires a ZK-based first-party oracles. So it's a smaller component as a part of project, but it is vital to get a Web2 information onto a Web3 application in a privacy-preserving manner. Do you do you entertain or fund such initiatives as well?
I think so. I think there's been a number of different initiatives around Web2 oracles as part of O1 Labs and as within the community. And so it's like, I would say it's absolutely on the table. The architecture, or making sure that the architecture is available for you to be able to build that successfully, I think is the key question there, which I will only embarrass myself if I try to answer it in any detail. And I would advise you to join the technical office hours next week to kind of validate if that's current, like what you need is currently possible to include as your proposal. Does that make sense?
Also, how soon is this going to be? When is the mainnet sort of going to be coming? And is there tooling that is available to integrate with Web3 auths kind of platforms where we don't necessarily have to rely on Oro wallet only, where this can be integrated into any sort of an application without requiring our wallet?
Yeah, I think that that's a great question so to answer your question, the first one around the hard fork is we're continuing to work towards it, but there isn't a date. There isn't a date set. The question around not having to rely on Oro wallet and other potential solutions, I think that's a great question for the Discord, because I know there's lots of people on this who aren't on this call who would like to weigh in, and I think it's just it's a good. And I also want to give Oro I know that they're also working relentlessly on providing new solutions too, so I want to give them a chance to weigh in as well.
We had a question in the chat talking about team building and the order with proposal stages. I don't know if it's on one of the slides that you had earlier, Will, but just so everyone knows, next week we are focusing on team building. That is a workshop that we will be doing. And today we are also focusing on team building. So you'll have an opportunity to get your people together within the next 2 to 3 weeks, right? So, yeah.
I want to ask about the size of the team, like how much people can be gathered in one team.
Yeah, so it's up to you. Yeah, it's up to you. First of all, again, thanks for staying up late. It's up to you in terms of how big your team wants to be. The way that our funding works is that we are paying out and trusting the proposer of a team, and then it's up to them how they will distribute funds to the rest of their team. We debated figuring out some sort of split function within the platform, but we figured that's a lot of complexity for cohort 1. And so from the beginning, we are there's a lead proposer for every team, and then that lead proposer is responsible for distributing the funds to the people who they have recruited or decided to be on a team with. And so there is an element of trust in terms of people gathering the team together that you'll be able to distribute funds accordingly. But given kind of the different mechanisms that we're working on here, we figured that is probably the simplest way for cohort 1.
Thank you.
There was a question in the chat. Does a proposal need to be finished in 3 months? Yeah, that's the goal. So my thoughts on that are if your project's bigger than that, just reduce the scope. It doesn't necessarily have to be a fully massive, complete project in 3 months, but figure out what piece of that could be done in 3 months with the idea of building beyond that. But yeah, the proposal should be scoped 3 months.
Cool. I think I see another one that's, does the proposal need to be finished in 3 months? Or maybe, yeah. So I think, Caleb, I don't know if that was exactly what you answered, Caleb. I kind of zoned out.
No, you're good. I know.
don't you think that the team building should come before the proposal stage? So there is I guess that's the one thing that we didn't touch in the presentation. There is a team section on the proposal that says, hey, we've already decided to be a team. Here's everybody's credibility. That will serve as like, again, information that the electors have to be able to make the right decisions or the right decisions for them. But it doesn't mean that, like, let's just say I have a proposal and you have a proposal and they're actually quite similar to one another. You get funded, I don't get funded, and I have some value that I can add to your team. We're also going to make a space for, collaboration and for us to meet each other after proposals are funded to say, okay, there's another opportunity to kind of like meet, because ultimately, like, it's everybody's decision who they want to work with and how they devote their resources. But there's a lot of value, I think, from what we've seen and from what we've seen on the platform so far. There's a lot of different ideas and a lot of different skill sets. So it's our team at Mina Foundation, it's our job to like provide space to facilitate that. Okay. I think that feels like that. I'm just going to pull up really quick. If everybody goes to CK Ignite and minaprotocol.com, which I'll just drop the link in here. The journey that you can do is basically you can click into the tracks, and where insights were last week, you'll be able to click directly into proposals and get started. And there's some instructions on there to get started. Given that we're short on time, I'm not going to share my screen and walk through it like we did last week, but it's the same as submitting an insight. If you did, you can click in, you can, you'll be able to, read the instructions, click on proposals, and actually see the templates that will be built out there. Again, if anything looks funky or you think the UX could be improved, please let us know, because we're going to continue to work on it. There's some things we can change right away. There's other things that might take a bit longer, and we will, we'll go from there. The last thing that I'll just say is that you'll be able to see the insights still. So like all of that information is available there and can be referenced. It's not gone. It's just now the shift in the functionality is shifting towards the platform proposals. Cool. And I guess just as final next steps, you'll receive, before we go into breakout room, you'll receive another email later today or early tomorrow with all of this information in writing, including next steps. If you haven't made an account yet, we'll include the option to do so there. And there will be more questions, so Discord is the place to ask them. Cool. I think Janae, I'll turn it over to you. Oh, I see one hand. H4X0R, last question.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Is it too late to submit an insight now? Because I'm sitting working on it like the whole day and yesterday.
Interesting. Okay. Yes. The deadline was last night. But maybe let's chat on Discord and I'll see if there's a way that we can get it uploaded. So okay, if you could just add,
Yeah, I don't know if it's like, maybe it's more like towards the proposal way, because it's, insight is like, it's supposed to be short, right?
Yeah, I think the insights were just aimed at getting discussion started, making sure there's an opportunity to like meet each other, as well as understand who else is thinking about some of the same problems that you are. And there's a lot of new ideas on there. If this insight can be translated to your proposal, what I would recommend is that you submit it just as a draft proposal and ask people for feedback. And then you can evolve that proposal, again and again, all the way up until the 21st.
Where am I supposed to submit it? Did you say in?
Yeah. So I guess I'll just show this really quick. So if you go if everyone can see here, if you go to the ZK Ignite platform, now it's changed to week 2, submit your proposals. Here is a banner of like, you can see what's happening on ZK Ignite, but you can see, okay, instructions for week 2. I'll click in here. I'll then see, okay, this is the ZK app track. There's just some very simple instructions, like there were last week. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll be able to see the evaluation criteria again. You go here to proposals, you'll be able to see the week 1 insights. You'll be able to participate as a proposal. There's a couple extra clicks here, but when you click in, you'll actually be able to see all of the criteria that we just discussed.
Okay, is it possible to like upload a document?
Yes, there's a section at the bottom.
So you suggest that I like submit like this insight like a proposal instead?
Yeah, I would suggest that, and then you can continue to evolve it. But we can also, I'm a little conscious of that we're running late on time, so we can discuss it via DMs as well.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Okay, I'm gonna pass it over to Janae because I know we got a lot of people on, and Janae, I think we can move over together.
But I also want to add a clarification. Do not do not submit your insights, right, as proposals. I think that's a conversation that we're having in the chat. We're going to get back with you on submitting additional insights, but for now, keep proposals in submit proposals where proposals go. Am I correct, Will, in saying that?
Yeah, sorry, I may have misunderstood. Like if your insight is on its way to being a proposal, then like if your intention is to actually create a proposal with it and the insight is just like the core thoughts, then you can just make it clear that it's like in draft mode. But also we can take that offline.
Yeah.
Main thing is that proposals, yeah.
Can it be 2 pages, the insight?
Yeah, it can be a file that you attach at the end of the proposal as well. As like, it can be anything. The main distinction between insight and proposal is that insights were last week to get the discussion started and to kind of like get feedback on maybe some ideas that you were thinking about. Proposals are much more scripted and templated, like we've talked about today. And so proposals should be things that you're considering to, you're attaching a budget amount to it, you're attaching an architecture to it, you're discussing this with people, and you can keep it in draft mode. Like it doesn't need to have everything right away, but you should only submit a proposal if you have an intention to build something on the other side of it, if you were to get funded.
And just so you know, everyone, after this meeting, we will be sending a recording, we'll be sending links to the presentation, and also, like Will mentioned before, we will be sending a draft of a proposal that you can use as a reference point to understand how to break it down, how to explain concepts and things moving forward. So don't feel like if you are in this place right now where you're a little bit confused, that's okay. There will be a lot more content after this to kind of ease your confusion. And if you are still confused, definitely put something in the Discord and we will be happy to help you. All right. I see your hand, Nick, but if you want to get your question answered, it'd be cool if you could put it in the chat and we can transition onto something else real quick. So last week we did a workshop where we were utilizing Miro, and this week we're going to be using Gather. Just so you know, Gather is going to be a bit, it's going to be a bit of an experiment. We've never used it as a collective big body of 100+ people before, but today's a special day. What's going to happen is we're going to have around 100 people that are able to access Gather. Now, if you don't want to hop over to Gather and you're comfortable where you are on Zoom, feel free to stay here. Will be here also carrying a conversation. In this space, we will be kind of talking about different problems, and but let me take you step by step. So we're going to provide a link in the chat. You're going to be taken to a site called GatherTown. In this site, you will be able to create your own Avi, create a name, and then pop over to our virtual world. Here, also, when you're taking your time to the virtual world, there will be tables throughout with letters on them. So I believe it's like A through F. at those tables are designated spots for our little conversation that's going to be hosted by an MF team member. Now, if you don't want to participate, someone's mic is on. If you don't want to participate in that, that is a-okay. Stay in one of the other areas and meet someone around you. Just so you know, when you're facing someone, you can have a conversation. You will all see when we get over there. Don't, so we're gonna go, I'm gonna put this in the chat and I will see you all on Gather. Oh, and if you, like I said, if you don't want to pop over or you've realized there isn't enough room, stay right here. We'll be guiding a workshop or a conversation over here as well. All right, see y'all.
I think, Janae, if you make me co-host, that'd be great. And then I can. Okay, yes, Nick, let's get your question. And for anybody who wants to stay here, I'll be here. We can talk about whatever you'd like. Nice wind. That's a good one.
Hey, just a quick question. I just dropped it to the chat, but I will duplicate it. I have a clear idea, but I'm not sure about technical implementation and about is it possible to have like tech hours with someone from Mina team with experience, like technical experience, who can advise me about that before I will go to make a proposal instead of I will do like a business proposal without this tech part.
Yeah. So we have the weekly office hours, which will probably be the first place to go. They happen right before this call every week. Were you able to attend today's call?
No, unfortunately.
Okay, so I would say that's the first place. And then also like the ZK Apps general channel on Discord is like, if you're comfortable doing it over text, that's like another place. We have a Q&A kind of like forum. So every question that gets asked there gets like tagged in like a forum format, that there can be like a discussion thread from there. So that would be the best place to like, as a first step to get technical support. And then again, like it's after the draft deadline, but then before the final deadline, where we'll have a pretty in-depth like architecture session with O1 Labs as well. But the technical office hours are the best place to go if you want like in-person feedback.
Got it. And where I can find a link on that to add myself to the next week?
Yeah, so it will be it's on the same link as here. I'll find it and I'll put it in the chat here. 1 second. Okay. 1 second. You can kind of register there for weeks going forward.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. I've seen we have 88 people who are not in together. I would recommend it if you can, because it's just an opportunity to kind of like play around and meet other people and also talk about problem statements. But I'll be here for everybody else who wants to just ask questions or just discuss. Does anyone have any questions? Laura?
Hi. Okay, I posted an insight with some links to the GitHub repo. So
Okay.
my problem was basically described in these links. The problem that my project should address was described in that links. I was just gathering information for the project, for the idea that I had, and I found out that someone was already speaking about it. Okay, so it's a dev to dev proposal, and it's just asking if this is the right way of describing the problem, or if I have to articulate it with my own words.
In terms of asking people on,
No,
in
describing the
terms,
problem that I want to solve.
are you asking like, are GitHub links the right way to do it, or should you be doing it? Or are you asking about the content of the proposal itself?
No, I'm asking if I have to describe the problem myself, or if I can just link the issues on the GitHub repo for the code.
Yeah. So I think the important distinction is that the insights is not the proposal. And so you for the proposal stage, you want to like you're going to have to fill out a new proposal based off of that information. With that in mind, I think it's probably a combination of you're going to want to like include information that will help the electors and not just be links, because they're going to be looking at a lot of proposals all on the platform, and having them to like asking them to click out into other pages. They might, they'll still do that, but I think you want to give yourself the best chance of having all of that information in one place. And so if there's a way to describe it in a way that people can, it makes sense, I would recommend that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Hey, Joshua. Joshua, is that? Okay, maybe Mario.
Okay, hi everyone.
Hey.
So I wanted to ask, I think it has already been mentioned, but I'm not quite sure about this. Do we really need to use the Mina wallet, or we can propose a solution which involves automatically creating a Mina wallet for a user when it's onboarding? I'm talking about this because sometimes onboarding a new user using a wallet, it's difficult for people who are not trained in crypto. So on our proposal, which plans to allow communities and people to claim their own credentials, and on communities to issue credentials, we think that simplifying onboarding is an important fact of this. And I'm not sure about this, because that creates a lot of new problems just to have a simple onboarding for this, and it may require some centralization, and it would be simpler to just do some onboarding using the wallet for the 3 months milestones. Okay, so how do you think it can be resolved, this compromise between these two difficult things? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, and I think it's why I get really interested about like the structure of this program, because the simple answer to your question is there are no restrictions in regards to that. It's all about like what is the likelihood of getting funding, and how real is the problem that you're addressing. And I think onboarding for any users into any type of crypto through having to create a wallet, having to create a seed, having to store it securely, having to just like get familiar with all those terms on your own are quite complicated. And I think like that's a big problem that crypto as a whole has to solve. What I would suggest is like getting going on your proposal and your thinking early, and asking for feedback as soon as you can to kind of validate from other people in the community if you think it's a viable proposal. The 3-month milestones are not to say like the project starts and the project ends within 3 months. Again, it's about like, is it enough to get you to a prototype? If those milestones are really interesting, but it's 1/10 of what the project should be, that's completely fine. It's just about positioning it in a proposal that the electors can decide.
So it would be possible, for example, to a first step, just to use onboarding through the Mina wallet, and then as an improvement thing, as a better way of onboarding through in a more general way. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
That will
without
be
knowing
okay.
without knowing the details, I can't give you like a hard answer. But I think the best way to do it will just be to like sketching out your idea, going on Discord. Like the electors who are participating will also be on Discord. So it's like hopefully there's a real feedback loop that you can get pretty soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I really like your paintings or your art in the background.
Oh, that's
Nice.
my son's painting, so not mine. Okay. But when
Okay,
he was
still,
just a little boy. Okay.
Nice. Okay, I have another. Let's see who else is. Alair. Alair.
Hello, do you hear
Okay.
me?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, let me choose another background. Do not like promote something else. I have a question. I have an idea about how to like use zero knowledge proof to improve user end experience, but that stuff requires like some kind of onboarding technology underneath, which is more like dev to dev track. And I meet guys from cohort who are working on the same like enabling technology, and in your like that's a complicated question, to be honest. If we will do not find way to incorporate each other, like this, like any reason, like human made reasons,
Sure.
what's like best way to do? Is it like put two independent proposals on a like mostly same, but maybe like some difference in description, or stay as a team, like even with some kind of trust, with like budget splits and etc.
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm not 100% sure I have the right or an answer. I think ultimately it's going to be up to you on how you guys would want to either work together or work separately. You can absolutely work separately and propose, if it's a similar idea, propose things separately. Again, it's the decisions of like the electors on how they choose what that idea means to them as individuals, not even as like a collective elector group. Like each elector is putting on the hat of, okay, as an end user in the ZK app ecosystem, or as a developer, looking for tooling, what would be really valuable to me? That's kind of the direction that we're giving to electors. And so for proposals, you can have them be separate. They can, one might get funded, one might not. You can also combine, but ultimately that's going to kind of be your decision. There isn't like a hard rule that we have it yet, except for if you, we have a community policy that's like, that everyone who's participating is agreeing to uphold like the core values, which we hope means also, people are trusting each other if they choose to join on the same team. But for many reasons, teams don't always work out. And so if you have similar ideas, but you want to approach it in a different way, or if you're approaching it in the same way, you still can submit separate proposals and the electors can make the decision based off of how the proposal is written, who's on the team, how's their background, have they built ZK apps before. There's a lot of like kind of decisions that might factor into why one gets funded and one maybe both get funded, but I'd say that that's less likely given the amount of ideas that we're kind of seeing come in already.
Yeah, and like some like such as follow-up question related, but not directly. Some kind of like even like onboarding technology, such as like improvement of Snark.js implementation already reflected in your roadmap, but not here yet. And like, is it possible to, for example, propose the implementation of CSP 256K1 signature scheme in Snark.js to like allow interoperability of like almost any blockchain.
Yeah, so in terms of the actual technical feasibility of it, I think that's where like the office hours and Discord will be the best place to like tease that out or to figure that out. And then the architecture section that we'll have on March 8th will actually go into details around the Snarky.js roadmap and like how you should go about facilitating the proposal given the current functionality. But yeah, I think the best thing to do will be to kind of like do that due diligence on the Discord and then, you know, make a decision based off of that.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. That's
Yeah,
it.
no
Thank
worries.
you for your time.
Yeah,
and-
nice to meet you. Okay, Rohan? Rohan or Joshua? Or anybody else, feel free to just come off mute.
Hi, Will.
Hey, Joshua.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, what's the current support for people building from the Solana ecosystem, people who want to probably integrate ZKP into their app or want to take advantage of what Mina has. So is there currently any support or any, I think that's the main thing, any support for people who are from that particular demographic, that is Solana developers, basically?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think we have any specific outline for people transitioning over from the Solana ecosystem. I could see that being a great dev for dev proposal of
Yeah,
you know, yeah.
Yeah, because why I'm asking is my proposal for dev track is actually a Solana library or SDK built on top of Snarky.js, basically. So, and I've been speaking with a lot of people from the Solana ecosystem. I write a little bit of Rust myself, and I know for sure that this is like an existing problem, and I'm just getting people's not just validation, but like in-depth feedback on what they really think about the idea. And so far it's been positive all the way. So that's what I and my team will be working on for the ZK Ignite one. Just wanted to get what you think about it entirely.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I know for a fact, I know a couple of people who have come over from Solana into Mina, or not necessarily come over, but who are working in both because there's a lot going on. And I think there's a lot of opportunity there. So I think it's a great idea. And I would say in your proposal, the more that you can document the like data points that you have from either knowing a bit of Rust yourself, but also like other, just the other people that you've talked to and figuring out like how you can show that you've done that due diligence, the more likely the better chance you'll give yourself to get funded. But I think it's really interesting. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Listen. Thanks.
Yeah. I'll give a shout out to there's a guy named Carol. I don't know if Carol Pudovsky, who's part of the Builders program, and he has given workshops. Like he's heavily active in both of those ecosystems, and so I'd recommend reaching out to him as well. He's on the Discord too.
What's his what's his handle or something? How
I'll DM you.
All right.
Yeah.
Hello. Thanks.
Yep, no worries. Hello. Okay. I see. Okay. I'm just gonna go by the order in the chat. First, Rohan. Okay. Next, again, H4XOR.
Yeah, hello, it's Haxor actually.
Haxor, okay, yeah, thanks.
What's your nickname in Discord?
I'm Will C. WILL space C. Let me see if I'll put it here in the chat.
Yeah.
Hello.
I don't see it.
Okay. 1 second here. There we go.
Oh, thanks.
Yep. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Who's next? Yes, we can. I can kind of hear you. It's a little muted, but go for it.
Yeah, so a friend of mine and I were planning to build something in DeFi, probably something like a DEX or something. But then again, I understand that there are not a lot of applications and probably not a lot of tokens which are in the Mina ecosystem right now. So I wanted to know, like, what do you think, how useful it is to build DeFi primitives like DEXs, or you probably build on that and maybe make some perps. So because right now, as I understand, there are not a lot of native tokens to Mina. So yeah, so just want to know what you think about it.
Yeah, I think it's really valuable. I think, again, I can only provide my perspective as an individual, but I think it's really valuable. Their tokens as a feature of Snarky.js was only made publicly available in the last couple months. And so the reason why there aren't a lot right now is just because we are that early in terms of what is like technically feasible and possible. But now that tokens as a feature, custom tokens as a feature is available, we expect to see there like being a lot of these primitives being built out. And so speaking as an individual, I think it's quite valuable, but I think, again, like speaking to other people within the Mina ecosystem, especially people who have been around for a while or people who might need DeFi primitives, and Mina's architecture is quite different than other layer 1 protocols, and so understanding like what DeFi applications would benefit, or like what the needs are out there is going to be important in terms of getting your proposal a chance,
right,
if that makes sense.
Right. So I can raise these questions with respect to what exactly is the requirement of DeFi in Mina. So like whatever you mentioned. So in the Discord channel, is there some channel I should probably specifically raise these questions on?
Yes. So ZK Apps General is the best place. And I think if you start, like, you can raise it as just a general thread and say like you'd like to start a thread, and Angus or Caleb will kind of like start like a forum discussion around DeFi and Mina. And I think that would be a great place, because I know for a fact that there's others probably on this call who are thinking about DeFi primitives. And so you might find like, again, like a bridge could completely enable a ZK app that's not possible, or sorry, a DEX could completely enable a DeFi application that's not possible without some sort of liquidity maker. And so I would suggest that be the best place.
Right. Okay. Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Sweet. Yeah, you're welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
So I would like to know, since we are already with Zoom, mean that we have to submit our proposals. So once we submit our proposal, what's going to happen?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's the draft phase, and then so once you draft the proposal, we're just going to like place kind of like heavy emphasis on people who are participating and electors to go in and be able to give feedback on proposals, although it's not going to be like a hard requirement for every proposal to like require a certain number of feedback. But the reason that we have like March 5th as an initial deadline is to really encourage that process of get something live and then have the ability to kind of like iterate on it. Once the second deadline passes, which is the proposal final deadline, that's on the 21st. Starting on March 22nd, there will be elector voting, which is a 2-week process in which each elector has a certain pool of funds that they're responsible for, and then they make funding decisions, again, based off of what they want to see within the Mina ecosystem. The funds during that 2 weeks could part of like we have the reason that we have it 2 weeks is that there's kind of like opportunities to take their time with voting and making sure that all proposals are considered, as well as see what other people are funding, because if everyone has a certain allocation, some proposals will get funded more than enough, some will not reach enough, and we want to give make sure that there's time for people to view, if everyone loves the same 10 ideas, it doesn't mean that those 10 ideas get 10 times the funding. Instead, like, it should be distributed according to different needs, and also like we want to, again, get as many projects funded as we can. So there's a 2-week funding period. After that period, the winners will be announced and that's April 3rd. And then the projects that are funded will move into, will enter KYC, which is like know your customer laws, or know your customer process. They'll have to pass through that, and then they'll be paid 100% of their USDC grant upfront to start building. Once they're building, they're paired with a mentor, and we'll continue to do these weekly gatherings that are more tailored towards building activities. And we'll do that for another 4 weeks, and then we'll close the program. 3 months after the funding date, so which is around like week 8 or so, is when that project will come back and they will report on their milestones. So that, like, the milestones that they listed in the proposal, they'll say, here's how I performed. Did I hit my milestones? Yes or no? They'll fill out a form. They'll also present a demo. And then the same team of electors, it'll be randomized, but the same team of electors will vote on if they will receive their the second part of their funding, which is 100% of the Mina allocation. And that the Mina part comes with a 1-year lockup, I should also notice. So there's different phases. That's why we call it like propose phase, funding phase, and then build phase. And right now we're in the propose phase.
Okay. So how many proposals can we submit?
We asked you to only submit one proposal. Well, you can. So it depends, because there's some slight nuances. But as an individual, not a part of a team, we asked to submit one proposal. Just out of the sake of, we may change that at a future cohort, but that's kind of where we're at. If you're part of a team and you have different teams, then there can be multiple proposals, but we asked in that case to only be in one track.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you.
Yep, thank you very much. Okay, I think I see Jonathan's hand up.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask about our team members, right? So is it compulsory for our team members to be part of the cohort, or can we recruit from outside of the cohort as time goes on? So is that like a necessity that our team members has to be, part of the cohort?
No, yeah, that's thank you. Yeah, that's a we haven't really discussed that. No, so the way that we're kind of thinking about it is like, you as a proposer, let's say you're the one who's filling out the proposer, you can say that your team members are you need to be able to like link to people on the platform to basically say like they've made an account and here's their information. But they don't have to like attend all of the gatherings. They don't have to necessarily like be here every week. Like, we understand lots of people have different priorities. People are in different time zones. I think the question is, which is blurry, is like, what does participate mean? In order to make the proposers, in order to make the electors' decisions easier, they need to be able to see who's on your team and like what qualifications those people have. But again, like, that's only to improve your proposal. If you're going to have someone help out with you, and you don't want to list them on your proposal, and like maybe you guys are siblings or friends and they don't have any interest, but they still want to help out, ultimately, like, that's up to you. And ultimately what you should be focused on, what you want to be focused on is like delivering on those milestones, and how you bring people in and how you compensate people. That's ultimately up to you. But if you're using team members on the proposal as a like positive thing to say like, look how I have a really successful team. They've built these things otherwise. Then those people need to have a link on have signed up on the platform, so the electors can verify that they're real people, basically. So you can't say like I have the 10 best developers in the world. You don't know them though. It's like that's like a little bit of like the meme or the joke, and like at least I grew up in the US, which was like, oh, I have a girlfriend or boyfriend, but they don't go to the school, so you don't know them. Anyways, that's a bad joke, but it's kind of what I'm trying to get at here.
Okay, so what you're saying is, so they have to register and then it's good.
So I think I missed the end of that question. Can you say that again?
But I said so essentially what you're saying is they have to be registered on the platform.
If you want to include them as part of your like profile, then they should. Yes, they should be. If you want to have them work on your app, but like you're not including them as part of your like pitch, basically, that's up to you.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep, no worries. Okay, we're coming up to the half hour, so we'll probably close then in a couple minutes. Does anyone have any last questions?
I have a question.
Yes. Hello.
What would you say the best way to go about gathering like-minded team members would be?
Yeah, I would say it's a good question. I would say it's going to be probably a combination and being persistent on Discord, and next week we're actually going to have like a little bit more a structured exercise on GatherTorn around how to facilitate gatherings. But my advice would be to like get a proposal, or at least like the bones of a proposal together, write draft all over it so people know that it's draft, but so that people can see you have, if you have an idea, to kind of like wave that as a flag and be very explicit around what you're looking for and who you are and where, you know, what you're interested in building, and be very public about that. And to see, I know for a fact that there's a lot of people who are kind of waiting for others to kind of see what they're building, and they have skills, but they don't have an idea necessarily. If you don't have an idea and you're trying to join a team, that also is like information that's included on proposals. So I'd recommend like reading through the proposals, being really active in like giving feedback, trying to kind of get your name out there on the platform so you can just like be just a contributor, and not only for, you know, the purposes of just finding a team, but just like to be a participant. And then probably attending each one of these gatherings for the next couple of weeks. Like each week, I imagine the attendance is going to like dwindle a little bit, considering we were at like 300 plus last week. We're at around 200 this week, and it'll get more intimate as we continue to move. So I would say just like be persistent and be active and gift giving with your thoughts and your presence, I would say. I know that's a bit of a loose answer, but hopefully is that helpful?
No, it definitely makes sense, especially since Mina is a participation-based platform. So it makes perfect sense. And I hope that we can, connect really soon.
Awesome. Yeah, glad to hear that.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to
I have a question. Is possible?
Okay. Yes.
I have some difficulties to view where we submit our proposals.
I'm not sure. Can you say that again? Sorry.
I'm facing difficulties to submit our proposal.
You're having trouble submitting a proposal?
Yeah.
Interesting. Do you, what can you explain?
I am on the
Or
platform. You have
Yeah.
a home overview, my ideas. So I would like where do we have to click on to to submit our proposal.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let me see if I can share my screen again really quick.
Yeah.
1 second. I'll just
Okay.
okay. So if you go to the ZK Ignite,
Yeah.
which is here, and then for anyone in the chat. Okay, so this is the homepage that you'll see here. If you scroll down, you'll see Dev for Dev track. If you click in here, you'll be able to scroll down. You'll see insights completed. Phase 1 draft proposals ends in 12 days. If you click on proposals, this kind of takes you into the different phases that we have. Then we have proposals. If you click submit proposal here, then this should be able to
Okay.
fill, there's a lot of information here. So it's not something that I think, it's a, we're purposefully asking for, yeah.
Okay, I see. Okay. How to click on the, I see now. It's okay. Thank you.
Yep, no worries. Okay, well, I'm going to close this out here, but we'll see you on the Discord. I also, again, I want to shout out for anybody that's still listening. Like, I want to shout out this one because I think it's such an interesting question, and it comes to like when we're thinking about ZK apps and functionality. I think that there's a lot of ways that ZK apps can add value, and maybe for some people it really is privacy preserving applications. For other people, it might be accessing blockchain applications and decentralized applications and the value that you can get from that, but doing so in a private way. Those are kind of like two separate questions. There's also like Mina has an interesting architecture in terms of how ZK apps work, or ZK apps have an interesting architecture where there's off-chain computation and the proof of computation is sent to the chain. And so that there's consistent size and fees, and there's like unlimited computation that you can do off-chain. And so I think it's like this question as a whole should be its own discussion thread. And so I encourage someone to take it to the Discord. Serhi, if you DM me, I'll talk with Richie, who's our moderator, and we'll go from there. Again, we'll see on Discord. If you scroll up, you'll see it in the chat. We'll see 2546. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. It's been really good to see you, and looking forward to next week already. Talk to you soon. Okay. Bye.
Bye. Yeah.